It's the end of the 2015 season for the Cleveland Indians, a season with plenty of ups and downs. But the future is bright. Francisco Lindor has made quite a first impression and is a frontrunner for Rookie of the Year. Jason Kipnis and Michael Brantley will lead a young core into 2016, and the pitching staff remains a strength. We will get one final glimpse at the future as Danny Salazar takes the mound next on Sports Time Ohio. One last beautiful day for baseball in downtown Cleveland as the Indians wrap up the 2015 campaign this afternoon against the Boston Red Sox. Hello again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. Indians have won the first two, a chance to sweep the Red Sox and finish above the 500 mark going into the offseason. Danny Salazar will get the ball, and he has had some great moments during this season.
You know, for a guy that was fighting for the number 5 spot in the rotation out of spring training, didn't make the ball club, has had a very good year. Danny's been out with a lot of strikeouts. He's got an explosive arm with a great changeup, the split change, and he has had a great year against the American League East. You can see 5-1, so he has a chance to go to 6-1. He's pitched very good against the West 2-0. He's just a game under 500 against the Central. So for Danny to cap off his season like the rest of the starters have so far in this series, it would be a very good year for Danny Salazar.
Maybe not likely, but he gets 11 strikeouts. That would give the Indians 3 200 strikeout pitchers on the year. When we come back, one more award to talk about. Who will win the American League Rookie of the Year honors? We'll talk to Andre Knott about that when we come back. Cleveland Indians baseball is brought to you by WB Mason, the official office supplier of the Cleveland Indians. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. By your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk, proud sponsors of the Cleveland Indians. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. Changing all-new Ford F-150. The future is tough. Back here on this, the final day of the season, and a celebration of sorts. Mark Shapiro will be leaving the organization at the end of the season, which is today. And he'll be heading to Toronto to become a team president of the Blue Jays. New opportunity for him. And so the Indians paying tribute to his 24 seasons with the Indians organization, beginning back in 1992. And a lot of employees and former employees on hand here this afternoon, including former Indians manager Eric Wedge, his wife Kate, and their children came back to wish Mark well. And somewhere down in the midst of all that melee is our own Andre Knott.
I've somehow found out through 160-some games how to get away from the melee.
Yeah.
Talk about 2015. I think we'll talk about the youth and the takeover of the American League. And we don't know who the Rookie of the Year will be, but we've got a pretty good idea of three of the names. Carlos Correa down in Houston went into shortstop about 3 weeks before Francisco Lindor. He's a game away from getting into the playoffs, and he's changed the position. He looks like Alex Rodriguez, hits with power and plays his position well. Then you can go to Minnesota. You can talk about the power of Miguel Sano and what he's done in the middle of the lineup for the Twins. But when you talk to people within the organization with the Cleveland Indians, the impact of Francisco Lindor is bigger than what he's done on the field. He's changed the clubhouse. He's changed the attitude of this team. And when you talk about what the defense has become with the Indians, with Francisco Lindor in the middle of the diamond, they look at this guy as not only the future, but a guy that's going to change how the American League looks and plays. So much so, guys, when I looked at the calendar for next year with the schedule, Francisco Lindor's face is all over it when you look at the Cleveland Indians. The face of baseball in the American League in Cleveland has changed with Francisco Lindor here with the Indians.
Well, he certainly has had an impact here, and it's been our pleasure to watch him play every day. In his 98 games, you can see he's leading all rookies in batting average. He has 22 doubles, which is right there. 12 home runs, 51 RBIs. He certainly could win it, and if he doesn't, it'll be a disappointment for the people in Cleveland. But Carlos Correa is right there, and he's on a Houston ball club that's on the verge of making the playoffs. 22 homers, 68 ribbies. We know Sano and Rosario. We talked about them when Minnesota was in town. There's 4 great candidates here in the American League, and you could even expand that even further with a couple of pitchers that are out there as well. But we would certainly love to see Francisco Lindor win it.
Without a doubt, youth has been served in the American League here in 2015. And for the Indians, obviously, with you got a guy like Francisco Lindor and Giovanni Urshela, who's had a good impact on the season this year, and a good young pitching staff, reason to be optimistic as they point toward next season. High fives all around as this will be the final game of the year. Indians getting ready to take the field behind Danny Salazar, who will be trying to finish with his 14th win of the season. He's 13-10 coming in with a .351 earned run average, 189 strikeouts in his 179 2/3 innings of work. Definitely has been a year of growth for Danny Salazar.
When you think back, and let's reflect back to me, and it's the last game, he was fighting for the number 5 spot in the rotation in spring training. He didn't make the ball club. He ended up going down. Zach McAllister started the home opener for the Cleveland Indians this year, and he made one start, and the next thing you know, Salazar's up to the big leagues. He ended up coming up here, and it seemed like he was a different guy after spending time in Columbus. For whatever reason, the light went off. He came up here, and he started pitching like everybody thought he was capable of pitching. Explosive fastball, tremendous split change, and he's worked on his breaking ball and still growing as a pitcher. So I'll tell you what, this guy, if he can put his 14th win on the board today, even if he doesn't, it's been a very solid year for Danny Salazar that fits into the rotation well.
Boston Red Sox are a club that comes in having lost 3 in a row, but on the positive side of things, before today's ballgame, it was announced that John Farrell will, in fact, return as manager next season. And in an unusual move to a degree, it was also announced that Torey Lovullo had agreed to a 3-year contract extension under the idea that he will not pursue any managerial positions in the offseason. So they're both coming back. Lovullo will be the bench coach for John Farrell next year.
And rightfully so. Johnny, with diagnosed with his sickness, he's going to be back, and that's good news also for Boston, I think, the Boston fans.
So the Indians take the field behind Danny Salazar and a number of young fans on the field on the final Kids Fun Day of the year. Fan Appreciation Weekend wrapping up as well. Let's take a look at the starting lineup that Salazar will face today for Lovello and the Red Sox. Mookie Betts will lead it off. Dustin Pedroia back in the lineup hitting second, then Xander Bogaerts. David Ortiz also returns to the lineup. Travis Shaw hitting fifth. Rusney Castillo will bat sixth. Blake Swihart seventh. Devin Marrero eighth. And Jackie Bradley Jr. will hit ninth.
Danny Salazar will be our Northern Ohio Honda starting pitcher today, making his 30th start of the year. Danny 13-10, 351 earned run average. In his 11 home starts to this point, he's pitched very well. 6-2, 306 earned run average. He had one start against Boston earlier in the year, and he beat him. He pitched 7 innings of 4-hit baseball, allowed 1 run, walked 1, struck out 5, and he's been outstanding against the American League East. 5-1 on the year with a 221. So we'll see if Salazar can close out a beautiful year against the Eastern Division. Let's check out the defense for the Indians, brought to you by Dodge. It looks like this. It'll be Martinez in left field, Almonte in center, Chisenhall over in right, Urshela at third, Lindor at short, Ramirez at second, Aguilar at first, Perez catching. And the Indians defense has done a remarkable job. Second fewest errors in team history. Got to go back. Only 72 was back in 2000. They have 79 on the year, so they really rebounded after the start of this year.
Bob Davidson has the plate this afternoon. Hunter Wendelstadt, the crew chief, was at first base. Marvin Hudson at second. David Rackley will be down at third. Our window systems, game time temperature, 67 degrees. And what little breeze we have will carry out toward left field. But at game time, almost dead calm. All games in Major League Baseball, and this is the final day of the season, beginning at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So everybody is underway as Danny Salazar fires a first pitch strike into Mookie Betts. Most of the drama is over, but there are still a number of things to decide. For example, Pittsburgh needs to win to guarantee they'll host that wild card game against the Cubs in the National League. In the American League, of course, Houston begins the day a game behind Texas in the AL West. The Angels are a game behind Houston in the wild card race. And the Angels are playing Texas. Houston, of course, is playing Arizona. So if Houston wins, then they're the wild card team. But if Houston wins and Texas loses, then they're tied for the Western Division lead. They would play off tomorrow to determine the champ. Down on strikes is Mookie Betts. So this is what's left to be decided here today. And, of course, also, Rick, home field advantage in that wild card game. If the Yankees end up losing, then I'm not sure.
And Houston wins, then New York goes to Houston.
Okay.
That's how it works. It's a little strange, but it's all out west for the most part.
Dustin Pedroia sends one to left field. And onto the warning track and pulling it down is Michael Martinez, 2 down. Our final key to the game, brought to you by Wayside Furniture, is end the season in style. Boy, they've played well the last 2 nights. Offensively, the Indians putting up 8 runs last night, or 2 nights ago. Last night it was just 2 solo home runs, but it was the pitching of Corey Kluber that was the story. Xander Bogaerts 1 for 7 in the series. He shoots that inside the bag at first. Down the line it goes. Chisenhall over to cut it off. He will, but a slight juggle. enables Bogarts to go into second easily with a 2-out double.
Slice that ball down the first baseline very well. This is a good hitter. He uses the whole field, and he's not a big power hitter. So he hits this one down the line, goes in with his 35th double. And he's approaching, he's got 196 hits now, so he's had a tremendous year.
And with 2 down, David Ortiz will bat here in the first.
Balk. Well, who's behind home plate?
Bob Davidson.
Balking Bob. He caught it. Salazar balked. Didn't take him long. Let's see the flinch. Does he start and stop? See, there's Ortiz getting in. Take a look. There it was. The back leg. You see him bend it like he wanted to start, and he hesitated.
Now Ortiz takes it's a strike. "37 home runs you see there for Ortiz.
Yeah, hit one in Friday night's game.
It was a 2-out, 2-run shot.
Yeah, the only runs allowed there by Tomlin in that ball game.
503rd career home run. He's one behind Eddie Murray now for 26th place on the all-time home run list. There's a hammer job foul.
Yeah, he did him a favor there. He changed up and left it up in the zone. Right now, Ortiz, his bat speed, look at it, he still generates a lot of power, but the bat speed's not what it once was. So he will start cheating on something, especially if it's Salazar's fastball. So I still think he can throw it by him, pound him up, in.
He drills that one to deep center field. Almonte won't get it. It's off the wall. Ortiz puts the Red Sox on the board first with a 2-out RBI double to center field.
Well, comes back with 2 outs, and they will strike first. Back-to-back doubles. Ortiz smoked that ball. He threw him something away. And watch, it's a fastball down and away. Gave him a lot of swinging room. And Ortiz made him pay. It was down into his wheelhouse, hits it off the wall. His 108th RBI.
.584 career doubles.
That's a boatload, isn't it? Just broke a tie. I think he was tied with Robin Yount at 583.
You know, you talked about the Ortiz home run Friday night. That snapped a string of 10 consecutive home runs hit by players who were 25 years or younger for Boston. And according to Saber, the last time that happened for the Red Sox was 1992. And one of the guys that hit a home run during that stretch was a guy named Eric Wedge.
No kidding. Who's in the house today?
Yeah. Travis Shaw awaits the pitch. It's low, and Ortiz, for whatever reason, is going to third, and he's out by a mile.
What is he doing? What, do you think he was going to get a foot race with Urshela?
I don't know what happened.
You can't
there.
win that one, Pappy.
Easy out, ends the inning. Red Sox lead at 1-0. Look at the rest of the lineup for Terry Francona. It's brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Michael Martinez follows up Lindor. Lonnie Chisenhall batting third. Carlos Santana, Jose Ramirez, and Jesus Aguilar in the middle. Then it's Abraham Almonte, Roberto Perez, and Giovanni Urshela.
And our Northern Ohio Honda starting pitchers, Rick Porcello, 9-14 on the year. And Porcello, we know him well from the Detroit Tigers. He's 9-3 in his career against the Indians. He's 5-2 in Progressive Field in 11 career starts. He has pitched 7 straight starts of 6 or more innings. He's given up a lot of hits. He has a high ERA, 186 hits in his 165 innings. Usually when Porcello's on his game, he throws ground balls, although he does pitch up in the strike zone, and he has 142 strikeouts.
Missed inside.
He is 4-7 on the road away from Fenway Park.
Chop toward first. It's going to stay fair. And an easy out for Travis Shaw. 1 down.
We'll set the Red Sox defense for you. Brought to you by Dodge. Castillo in left, Betts in center, Bradley over in right. Guerrero is at third, Bogarts at short, Pedroia at second, Shaw is at first, Swihart doing the catching.
Michael Martinez takes a strike. Quickly, the count 0-2. Now the 0-2 offering. A little bit inside. Michael Martinez has made this his 8th start with the Indians. He's gone 6 for 23 in his 7 games that he has started. And that's out of play. Martinez went to Major League Camp back in February as a non-roster invitee. He did spend the entire year at AAA, hitting .289. And when he got called up, he was 11th overall in International League batting average. Way out in front. And he's down on strikes 2 away. That'll bring up Lonnie Chisenhall. Well, the facing of the dugout sends him scattering a little bit. You can hear the guys yelling from the dugout, "Stay back."
Stays back anymore. He'll be picking it out of the glove.
That's a fair ball.
It
hit the bag down into the left field corner. Castillo digs it out. His throw to second, not in time. Lonnie Chisenhall with a 2-out double.
Well, I'll tell you what, he took it to heart because he did stay back. Because he hit it the other way, and it looked like it skipped right off at third base after the first hop. It looked like it might have been a high sinker. There you'll see the sunlight. It stayed down. It hit the bag. It was a fair ball. Chisenhall gets his 19th double. It'll bring up Carlos Santana, who's had a very good series. He's
He's 4 for 6 against Boston pitching with 2 doubles and a home run. Outside ball 1. Santana 1 home run to get to 20, 1 double to get to 30. Two and 0 the count, as you see. Good numbers for Santana against Porcello. A little bit low. 3 and 0. He pulls that one foul. One nothing Boston on it. David Ortiz. 2-out RBI double in the first. Strike is called and the count is full. Payoff pitch. It's ball 4. Another walk for Santana. Santana with his league-leading 108th walk on the year.
He moves ahead of Batista now, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if Batista's in the lineup today for Toronto or not.
Well, we'll check that.
If they win and Kansas City loses, who gets the home field? They end up tied. Toronto?
Toronto does, yes.
So they still have something to play for, I suppose.
Yeah, they do. You're right. You would like to open up at home, but I don't think it's the end all.
He's already walked. He's in the lineup and he's already drawn a walk.
Oh, so they're tied?
They're tied at 108.
See, it didn't take them long. Those boys are all over it.
Elsewhere, Cubs out to a 3-0 lead in their game, so they're keeping the pressure on Pittsburgh. Pirates need to win to stay a game ahead and keep that home field for the wild card game. Boy, the Cubs are going into the playoffs hot. They've won 7 in a row.
They're a scary team to play. Maybe they've got some power. Of course, you know, their matchup's not going to be fun. They got Garrett Cole they're going to end up having to face to beat, and he's no day at the beach by any means. He's a tough customer.
Oh, a nice grab by Travis Shaw. A snare. Extra bases from Jose Ramirez and keep the Indians off the board. We've played an inning. Boston 1, Cleveland 0.
You can stay connected with live radio broadcast stats, breaking news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball.
Travis Shaw to lead off for the Red Sox. He was at the plate in the first when David Ortiz inexplicably decided to try to steal third, and he was thrown out. One up, smash, diving stop by Aguilar.
Nice play.
And the flip. He just did beat him to the bag. Shaw hustling down the line, almost turned a hit in there.
Boy, what a nice play that was. Aguilar going to his backhand side. And I mean, makes a nice stab. And then here comes Salazar. And, you know, Shaw doesn't get down the line that well, but he just does get him by about a half a step. Beautiful play all the way around. Wow.
Made it a lot closer than it appeared it was going to be. Rusney Castillo, 0 for 6 in the series. Takes a called strike. Bounced in front of the plate. And gets away.
He's going to reach base.
He sure will. A strikeout for Danny Salazar, his second, and a wild pitch. Philadelphia trying to avoid their 100th loss of the season. They trail Miami 1-0 early in the third. Blake Swihart, the switch hitter, pops it to left. But there is Michael Martinez, 2 down. Let's get a Mazda game break without Pulaski.
Hey, Matt, Rick, big game today down in Arlington, Texas. Angels and Rangers. And here in the top of the first inning, Albert Pujols, his 40th home run of the season. That's a 2-run shot. Put the Angels up 2-0. It's now 2-1. Bottom of the first in Arlington, guys.
They had a wild one yesterday.
Boy, did they ever.
You know, 11-10. They had a 2-1 on Friday night. And it sounds like it's going to be crazy again today. It seemed like Texas had an answer for everything they put on the board yesterday. But the final say came down to the Angels winning.
Houston trailing Arizona, second inning, 1-0 Diamondbacks. Upstairs, if the Angels beat Texas and then the Astros lose to the D-backs, then they end up tied for that wild card spot, and they'll play that off tomorrow.
Yeah, it's something to watch. I guess that's why all these games are starting at the same time. Everybody has to play their best to get in.
Otherwise, under normal circumstances, you know, teams would be playing. They could be watching. Well, so-and-so's winning, or they won. Well, we don't have to play our guys.
Right.
This way, everybody's kind of got to go into it in the same.
Anybody that has a chance for the playoffs certainly does.
Strike is called.
But the bottom line, it comes down to this. If you have a chance and it's like Houston, you have to win and you're in. It's simple.
Control your own destiny.
Yeah, you control your own destiny. It's the Angels there that have to win, and then they have to hope for another team to win. So it's a little different.
Runner goes, and a foul back. There was one doubleheader today, too. The Braves and the Cardinals.
Yeah, I saw where St. Louis, that's just what they want to do, is play a doubleheader on the last day. But
well, they lost 6-0 in the first game.
Well, they were just throwing out there, I guess.
Runner goes again, and another foul ball out of play. Devin Marrero batting 8th in the Red Sox lineup. Now the 3-2. Again, the runner goes. This time he swings and misses, and the inning is over. Third strikeout for Danny Salazar. 1-0 Boston, middle of the second. Columbus takes on the New York Rangers opening night, and it's just 5 days away on the home of the Blue Jackets, Fox Sports Ohio. Jesus Aguilar looks at a strike.
Yeah, he's trying to get a feel for that curveball. He hasn't been able to throw yet for a strike, but there was a good one there to get Aguilar to swing and foul it off.
That's up high. 1-2 the count. Kind of waved at it, but got a piece. There's a ball driven to right, but foul, just wide of the mark.
Take a look and see. It missed by a few feet. Chance for extra bases, but it went foul.
Low and away. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Man, this one's driven to right. And a nice catch by Bradley. Our stat of the game is brought to you by Buick. Coming into today, the Indians leaders in several offensive categories. Brantley on the batting average front. Santana with homers and RBIs. Carrasco wins. Kluber, ERA and strikeouts. Abraham Almonte to left field. Castillo makes the catch, and there are 2 quick outs. Well, and up comes Roberto Perez. Perez has had a good year. You know, when the year began, you wondered, how much playing time he would even see, but with Yan Gomes having the knee injury, went down for 6 weeks, so Perez got a steady dose of playing time. Really did a nice job behind the plate throwing runners out, controlling the run game.
Yeah, that's the best thing that happened to him as far as getting some time early coming out of spring training, and he was able to get his game on. And it's not an easy thing to do when you're the backup catcher, because you're not going to get a lot of playing time if the starter's healthy. But he seemed to he did a fine job, and that's the number one job for a backup catcher, is catching and throwing. Handling the pitchers. Hitting's a bonus. Perez had 7 homers, 21 ribbies. And he walked a lot to get on base.
A little bit low. And it's 2-2. Up and away. And now a full count. Hammer to left. That'll go to the wall. And Roberto Perez will go to second base. He's got a 2-out double.
Second straight inning where the Indians will hit a 2-out double.
All 4 hits in the game, 2-out doubles.
I'll be darned. Wow, this is going to be our McDonald's. I'm loving it. Pitch he left upstairs that Perez turns on. Will get his 9th double. Drives it down to the left field corner.
And up comes Giovanni Urshela. strike to the outside corner. Urshela 0 for 4, the only game he's played in the series. To center field. Will it drop? It will. And the Indians are going to try to tie the game, throw way off line. So Perez scores. It's a 1-1 ball game as Giovanni Urshela comes up with a 2-out RBI single.
Broken bat, base hit, falls in front of Betts. He made a throw to throw Lindor out at home plate on Friday, but you watch this. He tries to, he knows with 2 outs, Perez was off and running, so there's not much he could do. Tried to put a little too much on it. It's off target. So Perez scores. Urshela gets the ribby. And we have a tie ball game.
And we go to the top of the order and Francisco Lindor. So Rick Porcello had 2 quick outs, but then the double by Roberto Perez, broken bat single by Urshela ties the game. And a check swing that nailed the bare hand of Blake Swihart. And he's immediately asking for the trainer. I don't know if that came down and cut him.
Might have caught him and broken nail or. Those check swings, they just ricochet, and you're looking at the.
Looked like the index finger on that.
Yeah, the throwing hand.
First knuckle.
They end up becoming numb after a while. You see, it's exposed right down onto the hand. First 2 fingers. Little numb. Trying to get a feel for it in there now. He's got a baseball in his hands to see if he can throw. Well, that's not bad. I can't feel it, but I'll stay in.
So the count 1-2 with 2 down and a runner at first. With the runner going, the catch made by a leaping Bogarts.
He was covering
as he crossed the bag at second to end the inning. Indians tie the game 1-1 after 2.
So you can make your 2016 spring training travel plans right now. The Indians have the perfect travel package to fit your schedule. Plus, enter now to win a trip to the desert. Visit Indians.com. Get to Goodyear for your contest details.
Jackie Bradley leading off for Boston. And Danny Salazar delivers a fastball first strike. Deep center, back is Almonte. Still going back, can't get there. And it'll hop the fence for a ground rule double. And Jackie Bradley Jr. with his 17th double of the year. And the Red Sox have their leadoff man aboard.
Well, this is a leadoff double. This one was hit pretty hard, and I think it might have fooled Almonte a little bit. He thought he was going to be able to get back and stay on it. But he just doesn't take his eye off the ball. You know, he keeps going back, and he just couldn't get back to the spot where it was hit. It bounces over the fence, a ground rule double. 17th now for Bradley.
Popped up into the seats on the right side. Down low. As Mookie Betts struck out, his only time up is the batter. Shoots that out of play to the right.
Just protecting, staying alive. And besides, when you hit it that way, you've got your leadoff man on second, trying to move him over to third as well. Tough to do with two strikes, though, against a guy like Salazar.
That's out of play. Right at the shortstop, Lindor fakes a throw. He made the grab on Mookie Betts, but Jackie Bradley wasn't going to take any chances that there wasn't somebody standing on second base.
Boy, hit that ball right on the nose.
Let's go down to Andre, who has more on Danny Salazar.
I'm talking to Terry Francona before the game and talking about Salazar's season. He goes, look, he had fewer hiccups this season because he finally picked a routine and stuck with it. And obviously not making the team out of spring training, that was a moment that Danny had to kind of pick and choose who he wanted to be. And he says it really helped him. He stuck with his routine, and with an arm like his, if you can stick to a routine, he can be one of the best in baseball. And he says this year was just a step towards that, hopefully, for Salazar.
Yeah, that's good. Good news. He has a great arm, no question. And for whatever reason, he's been unbelievable against the American League East. 5-1 this year against Eastern Division teams. The Indians overall are 17-15. As a matter of fact, coming into this series, Boston was 15-15 against the Central, and that's exactly what the Indians were against the East, but they've moved up 2 games with their first 2 wins in the series. Indians got to concentrate on playing better in the Central Division.
Dustin Pedroia sent one to deep left. Martinez had to go back on the track to make the catch in that first inning. Man, that's going to be a walk for Pedroia. So 2 on with 1 out. With Xander Bogaerts coming up, we'll take a look at Arcia in the driver's seat. He's had a fantastic year at the plate. His batting average coming into today, .320. He's already 1 for 1. Michael Brantley, of course, 4th.
Nice breaking ball there to get ahead. Bogart shot one down the right field line his first at bat for his 35th double of the year. Salazar would like to see a ground ball, but at one of his infielders.
Swing and a miss. He gets a strikeout. It's number 4. 193 on the year for Salazar.
It's going to be our Circle K strikeout. Another good breaking ball coming. There it is. A little slider. Bogart's out in front. Swings over the top of it. So he gets out number 2 in the inning and a chance to get out of this inning and keep it a tie ball game. But he's going to have to face David Ortiz to do it.
Well, Ortiz absolutely barreled one up. His first time up. Down and in. Nice pitch. 1-1. Ortiz checked his swing, and it's fouled back into the crowd. Salazar deals, and Ortiz yanks it into the glove of Jose Ramirez. And with the shift on, the Indians rob him of a hit. And this game stays tied at 1, middle of the third. Soon later in the game for Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Bottom of the third here at Progressive Field. It's a 1-1 ball game. Travis Shaw, Rusney Castillo, and Sandy Leon due up for the Red Sox. Leon took over for Blake Swihart.
That finger must be bothering him on that. Took on that foul tip.
Yeah. So Cleveland will bat here in the home half of the third, and Michael Martinez to lead it off, and he takes a called strike. This is what happened to Swihart.
Sure. Right there on the hand, right off the hand, and it had to be worse. And you know, he stayed in the ball game, but don't want to go home with a broken finger or something like that to start the offseason.
The 0-2. Martinez blasted in the left center field. That gets down and goes to the wall. And he'll go into second base with the leadoff double.
This game is eerily similar. You know, the 2-out doubles, the score. Now a leadoff double at Boston started that inning. Right back comes Martinez and the Indians with the leadoff double.
Now Lonnie Chisenhall, who doubled his first time up. He shot it right over the bag at third. Bloop toward left. That's going to drop. Martinez will get to third. And there are Indians at the corners with nobody out. Time for a quick Mazda game break. Here's Al Pawlowski.
Well, guys, it's pretty simple for the Houston Astros. Win and they're in, lose and they need some help. They went down early to the Arizona Diamondbacks today. A.J. Pollock is 20th homer of the year, but the Diamondbacks have seen the Astros come back and tie it. 1-1 now, bottom of the third in Phoenix, guys.
All right, thanks, Al. It was a George Springer double. Altuve scored. Springer was out trying to stretch it to a triple. So it's a 1-1 ball game there. Big curveball, and it drops in for a strike. Cuts and misses. And it's quickly 0-2. Back out of play. Kansas City trying to secure home field advantage, the top seed in the American League, and they're cruising 5-0 over Minnesota in the third.
That's almost a lock now, isn't it, with Toronto down 9-0.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't realize Toronto was down that many already.
Yeah, they were taking a thrashing. They started Burley in the first inning on 2 days rest because he was trying to get to 200 innings for the 15th consecutive year, and it didn't work out very well for Toronto.
No, they scored all 9 in the first. Wow. Santana pulls it foul.
I was told that out of those 9 runs that they scored, 1 earned.
Well, there was an error by Encarnacion that opened it. Looked like, let's see. I don't know if the bases were loaded or if they were about to be loaded, but Encarnacion committed an error. And there was a bases loaded walk, grand slam. Yeah, it got away from him in a hurry.
Yes, it did.
Angels still leading 2-1. All 3 runs were scored in that first inning. They're in the bottom of the third with 2 outs in Arlington. Angels up by a run. Santana down swinging. First out of the inning, second strikeout of the day for Rick Porcello.
Followed it up with a high fastball away. Santana swings through this one. So runners remain at the corners. They do have the 1 out. Now they'll look for a double play to get out of the inning. Ramirez should be looking for a ball he can elevate. Get into the air.
Outside, he missed ball 1. And that's out of play. 1 ball, 1 strike. Gets away. Marco Martinez scores the go-ahead run, and Lonnie Chisenhall goes into scoring position. Get another look. It didn't look like a terrible throw, but it might have just handcuffed him.
Well, let's see. You know, Chisenhall not a base stealer, but let's see. It's nothing fancy. Oh, it's a wide throw.
Yeah.
That's way off target.
Threw him a sinker.
Yep, he did. He didn't turn. He didn't really use his feet. So the wide throw, it'll be an error on Porcello, allowing Martinez to score, Chisenhall the second. And there's your double play ball that you were looking for.
2 down. Chisenhall to third.
So the Indians will take it. Give up a free run right there.
And up comes Jesus Aguilar, who lined to right his only time up. And now Aguilar lines one to left. It's a base hit this time. That'll play Chisenhall. And Aguilar with an RBI single with 2 outs here in the third inning extends the Indians' lead to 3-1.
Yeah, I love those 2-out base hits. He hit the ball on the nose going the other way in his first at-bat. He ends up turning on this one. See what the pitch is. He tried to run that sinker inside, and Aguilar ready for it. Nice 2-out base hit there to put a 2 spot on the board here in the third. Cleveland leads it now 3-1.
And Porcello with a first pitch strike to Almonte.
So far today, the Indians 4 for 6 with 2 outs. That's always a good sign for the offense. Must have busted his bat.
Now the 0-2. A little bit high. Porcello ready with his 60th pitch of the afternoon, and it's in the dirt. And they count 2-2. Back out of play. Now Monte wants to stick around and keep the inning alive. Indians with a 3-1 lead thanks to 2 here in the third. Won a gift run on a bad throw by Porcello to first. And then Aguilar with the 2-out RBI base hit. That also ends up being a gift because without that throwing error, the 2-out hit by Aguilar would have only scored 1 run because Chisenhall would have still been at first base.
Right.
In fact, he might not have been on base at all. He might have had a double play. Remember that ground ball that Ramirez hit. Now Monte down on strikes to end the inning. 3 complete. And the Indians lead it 3-1. And the Indians lead it 3-1 in the final game of the 2015 season. And it's also the final game here for Indians outgoing team president Mark Shapiro, who will leave the organization at season's end. He joins us now, and obviously it's got to be a really weird and bittersweet day for you.
It is a surreal day, very different. A lot of great memories, a lot of tremendous reflection upon a lot of people, all the way back to John Hart and Dan O'Dowd and bringing me in here. And obviously there's so many friends in both the community and within the Indians organization.
Yeah, it doesn't stem just in baseball. It's the community because you've been here since 1992.
Hard to imagine. And, you're one of those jobs where you think like you're going to leave every year, until about probably 6 or 7 years ago. I was like, I guess I'm staying.
Yeah.
And, it took about 20 years to feel that way.
It is something special because you started in Arizona, who got down to
Tucson. Yeah, 1 year in Tucson, Winter Haven. I've been in 3 spring training locations.
Right. Started at the old ballpark, coming over to the new one here to Jacobs Field back then. Now Progressive. Saw a lot happen in the 24 years.
I did. Some incredible memories, moments. Beyond the moments, though, I think the relationships really define it. Just so many incredible people that, from a Johnny Goro, who just really taught me more about the game than I could ever imagine anyone giving that much.
Right.
To obviously a guy like Eric Wedge that comes in here today and was such a great part of helping me to rebuild this organization and team at a time we had to reinvent ourselves due to the changing market.
Well, I mean, you spent virtually half your life in
exactly
Cleveland,
half.
Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, it's not to age myself. At 48 years old, I spent 24 years here, so it is home.
So obviously, when you arrived at the decision,
it
wasn't easy either. I'm sure.
Not easy. I focus a little bit on the uniqueness of the alternative, and I kind of thought if I am ever going to go. This one's pretty unique. The city is a unique city. I feel like there's upside in that marketplace. Obviously, there may not be upside on the field. My first responsibility could be driving Paul Beeston's float down the street for the World Series parade.
Big bouncer to first. Well, they do have a heck of a ball club. No
doubt
really about
do.
that.
But I still felt like the things that they need to deal with in the baseball organization, largely player development area, are things I'm passionate about: culture, infrastructure, systems, processes. Rick's worked with me in those areas and player development. That's the areas I really still feel like they've got upside. Their business challenges are, how do they reinvent the ballpark? So obviously I enjoy that. I've enjoyed that role here. And a new spring training facility is something you need to think about as well, which is also something I've been through and like. So I felt like the combination of issues that need to be dealt with there in both the baseball and the business side were ones where I could make an impact and make a difference and would be a great new challenge. And the city was one where my wife and kids were supportive of the personal challenge. So it's a professional, challenge, but really a personal adventure more than anything else.
Out of the country.
Out of the country,
yeah.
Not that
We're
far,
shipping you out of the country, buddy.
That's right where you want me, Rick. Because I've got enough info on you where you need to keep me at arm's length, brother.
I am out of the country. Their first, I think, business interest would be their general manager. Is his deal up at the end of the year?
It is. I've made it a point not to talk about it. I feel like what they're doing
fair.
right now is so special. Alex and I have talked multiple times. We've visited, spent days together. I'm excited to work with him. I think that probably tells you enough. But we're going to let them focus on what they're going through right now, which is a chance to be a very special October for that organization.
Yeah. Did you see what happened today? They wanted to start Mark Burley on 2 days rest.
No, I didn't see that.
And they're playing for the
they're playing for home field advantage.
Well, they wanted to start Burley for his 15th consecutive year, 200 innings. He only gave up 9 in the first.
Did he really?
Yeah,
Holy
he did.
cow.
And then Kansas City ended up taking a 5-0 lead here in the third at Minnesota.
KC might have home field.
Yes, it looks
and home
like
field
that.
for the Blue Jays is meaningful because that place is unbelievable to play in, as I'm sure you've watched.
Well, you go back to the early 90s when you started here. That's when their World Series years were there, and that was special. They had 4 million people.
You remember this, but I mean, when I first started in the old municipal stadium, the Blue Jays, when we played them, they would have 10,000, 15,000 fans there because they couldn't get tickets up there.
Right.
So that's the cycles you go through in this game. Kind of a funny thing.
Yeah, that was one of the most electric places to go to back in those days, and it still was this year. It was fun because we were there in September.
Danny Salazar strikes out Sandy Leon. We'll finish up with Mark Shapiro when we come back. It's 3-1 Cleveland. 3-1. There's Joe. He's not man
Where's
of the game,
Joe?
Rick.
No, that's all right. We said we wanted to bring him in today. We're going to treat him to some food. We got the Italian boys from Niagara Falls going on to give Joe some bread.
Well, get those guys up here. I want to have them tell stories about you.
Oh, they've got a few.
Yes, they do.
Bottom of the
Joe.
fourth. Joe's from Steubenville.
Yes, he is.
Roberto Perez, Giovanni Urshela, Francisco Lindor due for the Tribe here in the fourth inning. We're visiting with Mark Shapiro, who's leaving the organization after 24 seasons.
Well, I got to tell you one thing. You're leaving it with a pretty good pitching staff intact.
Even more than the pitching staff, I'm leaving it with a great leadership team, obviously starting with Tito and Chris. And, I think obviously having the chance to work for Paul Dolan and his commitment to the organization and the values. But my confidence in the leadership team and the position of the team on the field and the organization was one of the things that didn't give me any pause when I made the decision to leave. These guys, I'm not deserting anybody. These guys are positioned well. I think the infrastructure is in place for this team to be a very good team for the foreseeable future. And, the leaders are here to continue to drive that forward.
As you made the transition from general manager, being involved in baseball operations day to day, to team president, what do you like about this new opportunity in Toronto? And is there anything that you miss about the baseball operations side of things?
Well, I definitely miss the baseball operations side, and I think this opportunity in Toronto is going to provide me with the ability to get more involved in a way that I feel good about. Because with Chris, the guy was my assistant for 9 years. By the end, he was doing the job better than me. I think out of respect to him, I kind of felt like there needed to be a barrier. I had so much respect for the process that he goes through along with the other guys in baseball operations that I felt like they didn't need me. I was there as a resource for Chris when he wanted it, but they certainly didn't need me. I would just mess things up. So I do feel like going to Toronto is going to provide me with the opportunity to get back involved in baseball operations in a way where I can help and make an impact. And I think I can still do the things on the business side, which is the league level, Major League Baseball side, and the big scale issues like the ballpark renovation that I've enjoyed also on the business side.
Well, on the baseball side of it, the toughest thing to do is probably build a pitching staff, isn't it? I mean, good young, because if you want to go pay for pitching, you know what it's going to cost. And there's a guy up there in Toronto now, David Price, that's free agent
Absolutely.
at the end of the
that's
year.
That's going to be one of the first challenges to deal with.
Right. I mean, that's got to be a tough challenge to deal with because he's going to want $200 million just like Scherzer did when he hit the market.
I don't care what market you're in, whether it's the largest market or the smallest market. Free agency is usually a losing proposal. You're going to, over the long haul, those contracts.
Yeah.
On the back end of those,
right.
You're going to usually lose out. There's some inefficiency. And the bottom line is you want to be able to have the resources to go into free agency when there's something important there you can do to supplement a championship core. But you need to draft, and you need to develop. And you need to sign internationally. And you need to have players coming through your farm system that can be the core of your team. And if you can do that, then you can win a championship in any market you're in.
Regardless of how big or how small the market is.
Doesn't matter that. Doesn't matter. You need to succeed in those areas.
I think we all learned, I know Rick didn't. He went right from high school to professional baseball, but when we took that first economics class in college, we learned about the point of diminishing returns.
Yes.
And when you get into free agency, there probably isn't a free agent contract that doesn't hit that at some point.
Well, by nature, free agency, because of the age of most players, most players are when they get there, you're paying for past performance, not future performance. And so, their free agency is inefficient by nature. So, again, I think if you can wade into free agency strategically, either because an opportunity exists or because you've got one defined area, you feel like the right guy is out there who both fits the team in makeup as well as talent, then you'd like to have the resources to be able to strike when that presents itself.
And if we go back 20 years ago, that's pretty much how it was done here. Because they had the young players in place, and you picked and choose the free agents, the Eddie Murrays, the Dennis Martinez, Oral Hershiser.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's how it was back then. It was almost like the perfect storm.
That was obviously, I texted both John Hart and Dan O'Dowd today and kind of told them I was thinking about them. And that was a very special, will forever be a very special area. And it was the convergence of so many different conditions. The Browns not being in town.
Right.
It was so many things were just perfect for that to be really set up to be one of the most special eras in the history of Indians baseball.
Well, it will be my special time ever.
Mine too. Yeah,
I mean,
I
it
was
really
telling
will.
Hammy earlier. I mean, that he asked me about moments. I'm not a moment guy by nature, but the home run that Sandy hit off Mariano Rivera in the LDS, he had a right field. That moment kind of, epitomized for me just how special the mid-'90s were. It just changed the improbable to the probable, made you think anything was possible, and you felt every fan in this place, with the team in that moment. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah, and they needed it. They needed it then.
That was it. That moment turned the postseason for us.
Yeah, I'd go home at night and say, "This doesn't happen. This doesn't happen in the major leagues."
Yeah. When we battled all the way back and turned the whole roster over in 2007, I told Chris when we headed into the postseason, we are going to enjoy every moment of this because, you cannot take for granted. It doesn't just happen that easily, and the odds are stacked against us here doing it, and how we had to do it, what we had to go through, along with how incredible those guys were on the field was pretty special.
Well, thanks for everything.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to the fans. Thanks to the community of Cleveland. It'll always be a piece of my heart. So, Arch, thanks,
Good
brother.
luck, pal.
All right, man.
Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. By Levin Mattress, located in all Levin furniture and freestanding locations. And by AT&T UVerse, has more channels on the go than cable.
The Indians lead it as we go to the fifth inning. Devin Marrero will lead it off for Boston.
Yeah, we didn't get an opportunity to talk to Mark about the first pitch being thrown out today where his son Caden was on the mound and his daughter threw it out. And Caden threw one low and into the dirt that skipped in, caught him in the knee.
The 0-2. Marrero chops it to third, charging is Urshela. And he throws him out, one away. Take you back before the game, the ceremony.
Now, Caden's he's got a good arm. He's a good player. He's a left-hander. And, when you throw the first pitch out, you want to put a little air underneath it.
Sienna just laid it right in
there. Did a nice
perfectly.
job. See, a little air underneath. Now, watch the left-hander. He skips it and short hops him and got him on the knee. Look at, he's looking back into the dugout. I think there may have been
some shenanigans.
Yeah, something going on from the manager over there.
Jackie Bradley doubled in the third. He sent one to deep straightaway center field. Missed inside. Bullseye.
Yeah, I was celebrating over where you're supposed to be. Thanks for being there. Okay. Ready for 0-2.
That's a base hit in the left field off the bat of Bradley, so he's 2 for 2. Our final great clip of the season. Lonnie Chisenhall against Detroit earlier this summer. How about that? Laying out.
Yes, indeed. He gets onto the warning track. What a beautiful catch. And this guy just moved to right field after getting called back up from AAA and played it very well.
One on, one out for Mookie Betts. Pulls it foul.
I've got to send along our congratulations today. Happy 63rd anniversary to Pauline and Frank Bochenik from out there in Struthers, Ohio. They're celebrating 63rd. Tommy Bo's mom and dad.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. 63 years. Unbelievable.
Frank's doing a jar of peppers.
He might be today watching. I hope he's watching baseball, not football. Frank, you watching? Congratulations, pal.
Strike called. It's 0-2. Got in on him, popped him up. Shallow left. Martinez is there. 2 down. No one has an opinion like Bruce Drennan. Get his thoughts on today's games tonight after Indians Live on Drennan Live, followed by Jimmy Hanlon inside the Golf Zone. It's all here on Sports Time Ohio. And with 2 down, Dustin Pedroia will be the batter. He flied to deep left in the first, walked his last time up. Takes a strike. And that's outside, 1-1. Got in on his fists and fights it off. 1-2. Pedroia missed 42 games with a right hamstring strain. Since coming off the DL on September the 8th, he's batted .320 in the 17 games that he's played.
Well, this guy, when in the heyday, he was sort of their heart and soul. When you miss him from the lineup, that's taking a big part of it away. Because you got a Brock Holt, who's a pretty good player, that was playing in his spot every day. Tough shoes to fill.
Almonte makes the grab. And we'll go to the bottom of the 5th. Cleveland 3, Boston 1. The hashtag STO Data Strong Fan for a chance to have one of them shown during an upcoming telecast. This is our final one of the year, so coming up soon it will be our Data Strong Fan photo of the game, and the final one this year. Lonnie Chisenhall rolls it to first base. Travis Shaw will take it himself, one away. Time for another Mazda game break. Here's Al Pawlowski.
Guys, it looks like the Kansas City Royals are going to secure home field advantage throughout the postseason of the American League. Salvador Perez, 21st homer of the year, puts the Royals ahead 5-1 in the fifth. Plus, the Rays are blowing out the Blue Jays 9-1 in the fourth, guys.
All right, thanks, Al. A little bit low to Carlos Santana. Here's a high fly ball, right field near the line. Bradley has that 2 down. Our in-game recap brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. David Ortiz gave the Red Sox a 1-0 lead with back-to-back 2-out doubles in the first by Boston. But Giovanni Urshela would tie it with a 2-out RBI bloop single in the second, and then the Indians would go ahead. A wild throw by Rick Porcello to first gave the Indians the lead, and then Jesus Aguilar with a 2-out RBI single made it 3-1. Down and in, he missed. Fouled it off his foot. There's a liner to right field on a base hit for Jose Ramirez. 2-out single keeps the inning alive for Cleveland.
We've been able to get the 2-out base hit this afternoon. Keep things going, keep the inning going. Well, you see that sinker. He didn't get it away where he wanted it. So Ramirez strokes it into right center.
Runner goes, and the throw is way offline. Ramirez will stay right there at second base. They'll give him 10 stolen bases on the year.
Check out the jump. Pretty good one right there to throw. Nothing near where they could get Ramirez. You can see that ball. It ends up hitting him. Trickles into center field, but he couldn't do anything after it did.
Base hit in the left field. Ramirez chugging around third. He'll try to score. Castillo's throw to the plate in time, and he is out at the dish. That'll end the inning. Good throw by Rusney Castillo. Right on the money, and Ramirez is out at home. Mobile data strong fan photo of the game. And thanks for all of you texting your photos to us this year. Here it is. Pat Murray, our outgoing director. Hashtag the great one.
The great one is right. Took a selfie. I knew he'd send it in, and he'd be able to put it on the screen. He didn't get enough airtime 2 days ago.
Ground ball, it's going to go foul. There is Pat overlooking Ryan McDermott's work.
He's just right over my right shoulder over there with Brian.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. He's in. Do I have something I can write down there and make a little statement?
Xander Bogaerts down to the count 0-2. And a foul ball.
One more time to find Andres' head down there in the camera bay.
Swung out and missed. Got him to chase one down and in. Half dozen strikeouts for Salazar. Our injury report brought to you by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk. And going into the offseason, Michael Brantley, a little shoulder soreness. Zach Walters had shoulder surgery. Hagedon had surgery. So we'll see how those guys bounce back, but doesn't appear to be anything real major on the injury front. Danny Salazar, his season ends with 195 strikeouts on the year. 3-1, the Indians are on top. Mickey Callaway talking with Danny Salazar, who went 5 1/3, struck out 6. And now Kyle Crockett. Crockett's 31st appearance on the year. Swung out and missed. And Ortiz pulls it into the camera pit. The 1-2. And Ortiz again pulls it foul on the right side. Up and away, Ortiz lays off. And that's down in the dirt. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Missed outside, and Ortiz draws a walk. FS1 will continue to be your home for postseason action with the American League Division and Championship Series. Don't miss a moment of the drama. It all begins October the 8th on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. We'll get a pinch runner for Ortiz at first base, and it's Alan Craig. Shaw fouls it off his foot. So David Ortiz finishes his season with 37 homers, 37 doubles, and 108 runs batted in. And a foul out of play.
Crockett is able to get ahead of the left-handers. Let's see if he can put him away now. He had Ortiz down in the count, 0-2, ended up walking him.
And a base hit. He beat the shift. Craig had to make sure it got through.
Yeah, and then kick it into gear to get to second base. So an 0-2 base hit, and that's going to do it for Crockett. Comes on, he faced 2 hitters, and that's going to do it. breaking ball down, and Shaw stayed on that ball very nice. You can see him go it between second and short. There's Lindor, and then you'll see Ramirez in the right field. So first and second, and Crockett is done.
So we've got a time. And we're in the 6th inning. Boston threatening, though, with their 2 base runners and with 1 out. Zach McAllister on for the Tribe. They'll be facing Rusney Castillo. Kyle Crockett faced 2 batters, gave up a walk and a hit.
So Salazar was able to strike out Bogarts to lead the inning off. And then Terry went to the bullpen, brought in Crockett. He walked Ortiz. He gave up a base hit to Shaw. Now it's McAllister.
Missed outside, ball 1. Up and in, he ran it out of the zone. It's 2-0. Fastball line to right. Chisenhall makes a chest high catch, and the runners have to hold 2 down. Not much more you can do. You hit it right on the screws.
Yeah, you can't guide it. He hit it hard, but it's right into the tracks at Chisenhall. They get the 2nd out. Now a chance to get out of the inning.
Sandy Leon, the batter. Sandy Leon was the only guy that really gave Corey Kluber trouble last night. He was 2 for 3 against the Indians right-hander. Other than that, Kluber dominated Boston. He only gave up 3 hits in 8 innings of shutout baseball. Fastball with some movement down and away. And it's 1-1. just missed that inside corner. He pops this one up. In left field, Martinez calling for it. And he makes the catch. No runs, a hit, 2 men left. We go to the bottom of the 6th. It's still 3-1 Cleveland. The bottom of the 6th inning. Stay tuned afterwards for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. Alan Jensen will be on hand to wrap it up from the district. Going to the bottom of the 6th, and it will be the bottom third of the Indians' order. Now Almonte bounces one right back up the gut. And the Indians leadoff man aboard here in the bottom of the 6th. That's 3 straight hits now for Cleveland. But remember, the bottom of the 5th ended on a base hit to left when Ramirez was thrown out trying to score. Now the Rangers are leading the Angels 3-2 in the 7th inning in Arlington. Texas trying to clinch the AL West. But at last check, the Diamondbacks were beating the Astros 3-2. There's a double play ball to short. Bogarts to Pedroia to Shaw, 2 down. Our AT&T Uverse Rewind, Giovanni Urshela in his final game of the year. Got a 2-out RBI bloop single to center to tie the game in the 2nd, and then a line drive single to center field in the 4th.
Well, he wanted to play, before he got over. He took some time off, the shoulder issues bothering him, but able to get back in there a few times before he heads out for the winter. Said he's not playing winter ball this year. Going to end up working out, and we'll see how he comes back into spring training and in what kind of shape.
That was a slow breaking ball that he wasn't quite sure if it was ever going to actually curve. Porcello closing in on 100 pitches, but the Boston bullpen quiet. And that's foul, third base side. Slowly chopped to third. Bare hand grab, throw on the move, and he got him. That was an outstanding play for Devin Marrero. And he robbed Urshela of what would have been his third hit of the afternoon. Light. Danny Salazar went out today, and like all the starting pitchers really on this homestand, he's finished very well. Yeah. 5 1/3, struck out 6, only gave up 1 run.
Yeah, he comes back, a chance to win number 14 on the afternoon. He had 6 strikeouts. He gives him 195 on the year. Little tip of the cap, so he finished it off just like the rest of the guys did.
Zach McAllister facing Devin Marrero, who is 0 for 2, but what a spectacular play he made defensively to end the bottom of the 6th inning.
Very nice play on the barehanded grab on the move.
Up and in. That ball got away from him. It's 2-1. Bullseye right down Broadway. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Outside with it, full count. Missed just low with a 3-2 pitch and a leadoff walk for Boston here in the 7th. Well, with the Indians now with 3 pitchers at 195 or more, they join a pretty good list of staffs that have been able to accomplish that.
Yeah, the Tigers, you can see those 3. Let me see. Look, how about the Houston Astros? Durker, Griffin, Wilson. Twins 67. That's going back.
Wayne County, Ohio's own Dean Chance with the Twins and Jim Cott. Kluber, of course, leading the way on that strikeout list. 245. Carrasco 216. And of course, Salazar at 195. Ramirez, what a play! Jose Ramirez from the outfield grass, robbing Jackie Bradley of a hit.
Very nice play. Able to make that play, moving to his left and spinning. And an accurate throw is what does it. Look at that. Right on time. It made it look easy. Wasn't that easy?
Yeah, I mean, spinning, falling away. Made
yeah,
a perfect
that looked
feed.
like he might have had a chance, too, to go first and third. So out comes Terry Francona. He's going to make a move, go to that bullpen.
So we got a timeout for another pitching change as Terry Francona waves to the bullpen. McAllister's out after an inning of work in which he walked a batter, did not allow a hit. 3-1 Cleveland. Are on top. We're in the 7th inning. Red Sox have one on with one out. Mookie Betts the batter, and the new Indians pitcher will be Jeff Manship.
He's done a nice job for the Indians this year. You can see the ERA under 1 in his 31 appearances. 10 walks, 33 strikeouts. Hasn't given up many hits. 157 batting average. Sox with a man on second and one out because of the nice play by Ramirez.
Top of the order, Mookie Betts. He's 0 for 3. A struck out, lined out, fly to left. Upstairs, ball 1. One and one to count. And Betts pulls off it. Falls behind, a ball and 2 strikes. Marrero, the runner at second base. Three runs on 10 hits for the Indians today. No errors, 6 left. 1 run, 5 hits, 1 error, 6 stranded for Boston. The 2-2. Hit hard to third. Urshela looks the runner back and throws out Betts, 2 down. And Dustin Pedroia, what possibly could be his final at bat of the year, 0 for 2. Pedroia at 32 years old. And already his 9th full season in the big leagues. Red Sox have not been able to get the clutch hits in the series. They're 1 for 13 with a runner in scoring position.
Yeah, and right now he's not seeing the baseball too well. He's sort of checked his swing on a couple of sliders thrown by Manship. And he's down in the count 0-2.
You saw Torey Lovello in the Boston dugout. It was announced before the ball game that Torey will be back next year as the bench coach. Signed an agreement. John Farrell will be back as manager. Carl Willis will be back as pitching coach. Pretty much the entire staff comes back. A couple of changes. Pedroia awaiting the 1-2 pitch with Marrero at second and 2 down. And he bounces it up the gut. Backhanded by Ramirez and throws him out. We've reached the 7th inning stretch with the Indians on top 3-1. Stretch time brought to you by Spitzer Auto World. Defensively for Boston, as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning, Josh Rutledge has come into the ball game. He takes over at third base, and Devin Marrero goes over to short. Xander Bogaerts' day is over. Rick Porcello at 97 pitches comes back out here for the bottom of the 7th. And it will be the top of the order due up for the Tribe. Our Levin Furniture player profile since the All-Star break. Lindor has just put on a clinic. The way he has swung the bat, played defense, you name it, he's done it all. Drive-in runs, extra base power.
Yeah, he's been a lot of fun to watch play the game of baseball. It wasn't until June that he was called up. And after the way you see him play, everybody's going to say, well, why'd they wait that long? But, you know, that's just the way it goes. He was down there. They figured he wasn't ready yet, but he certainly was. He was just waiting for his opportunity, and boy, did he come in with style.
Sends a fly ball to center. And Betts will make the catch. 1 down. Let's get on to Andre Knott.
You know, last offseason, you're coming into this season, Terry Francona told a lot of reporters he expected Jason Kipnis to come into this season with a vengeance. Well, he feels like he did that this year, and in his exit interview today, he told Jason, he goes, look, for us to be the team that we want to be, we need you to play exactly how you played this season. We need you to be a leader, and we need you to be one of the best hitters on this team and in baseball. And Jason says he looks forward to that challenge. He wants to be that player for this team.
Well, he knows how to go about it. And I guess the key is just staying healthy. We look back in the month of May that he had 51 hits and didn't have a bad June. Certainly didn't size up, but you don't get 51 hits a month.
No, he followed that up with a 358 average in June.
Right, that's what I'm saying. What was he have? About 32, 33?
34 hits in June. He was a 280 hitter in July, and then August, 241. That's when he had the injury. That's what kind of knocked his season out of whack a little bit.
Well, he knows what it takes to come back in here and get ready, and I guess it's all about being healthy, as it is with so many of these guys.
Martinez down on strikes, 2 away.
Well, you look at both Brantley and Kipnis. Brantley, again, the second straight year of 45 doubles. But there's Jason Kipnis. He follows suit. He had 43. 7th time in club history with 43 or more in a season. It's a long time. You got to go back, though.
Well, you're not kidding. With 2 down, Lonnie Chisenhall rifles it out of here to the left. A one hopper to short. And the Tribe goes 1, 2, 3. 7 in the books. Cleveland 3, Boston 1. All right, back here at Progressive Field. We are in the 8th inning. New pitcher for the Tribe is Brian Shaw. After Jeff Manship came on and worked 2/3 scoreless. Brian Shaw will face the 3, 4, and 5 batters for Boston. Josh Rutledge will lead it off. He came on and replaced Xander Bogaerts. And a first pitch strike. Shaw will finish the year with 74 appearances to lead the Indians. Swung out and missed. It's 0-2. One and 2 the count on Rutledge, who will be followed by Alan Craig. And then Travis Shaw. So a couple of right-handed bats, then a lefty. Shoots it on the right side by Aguilar. Shaw's covering the bag, and he's safe. Perfect throw by Ramirez, and Shaw did everything he could. Well, Rutledge called safe on a bang-bang play.
I'll tell you what, he got down the line very well. I was watching him, and he kicked it into gear. Ramirez had to wait, and he was timing it for Shaw, and I think he does. He might beat him. I think he did. Yes, that'll go down as a base hit. Look at, he's getting his footwork together. Yep, he got the foot down right when Shaw was just trying to get there. Awfully close. Good hustle.
And now Alan Craig will bat. Upstairs, ball 1. Chased one, and it's 1-1. 17,844 the attendance for the season finale today. That gives the Indians 1,388,905. Covers 78 dates, and that's because they had 2 traditional doubleheaders, and of course one game that would not be made up at all.
Right. The one tomorrow, if it meant anything, against the Tigers. Back-to-back rainouts here the last time they were here.
Greg chases one up high. It's 2-2. Out of play. Now it looks like Philadelphia is going to avoid that 100th loss of the year. They lead Miami 7-2 in the 9th.
Good for them. They had to play hard to do that, too.
Pittsburgh's trying to wrap up home field in the wild card game against the Cubs. They lead Cincinnati 4-0 in the 7th. Houston still trails Arizona 3-2. They're in the 7th. But the good news for the Astros, I think the Angels are still losing as well.
Yeah, they are. It's 9-2 now.
Oh. Texas blew it open.
Yeah, they sure did. They had a seventh inning, a bottom of the seventh that knocked them out.
So that should all but wrap it up for Houston and Texas. The 3-2 bounced in the hole and a base hit for Alan Craig. So back-to-back singles here in the 8th for Boston. Let's go down to Andre one more time.
You know, talking to Terry Francona before the game, he says this was a very trying year for him, the first 3.5 months of the season. He says there were nights where he couldn't sleep at night because he couldn't figure out how to get the team going, and that bothers him. But he says these last 2 months have been very encouraging, and he says, you know, he doesn't want to walk away and just be completely happy because of the last 2 months, but he says it's something that they can build on, and he just hopes, you know, they come out in April with a better start because he feels like they've got the type of talent that can play deep into October if they ever get that chance.
Well, it'll be the start of winter, and it'll be a lot of reflection. He'll go back, rest up, and get ready to go, and we'll see what happens over the winter. If there are any moves to be made, if there are any changes.
Red Sox 1 for 8 today with a runner in scoring position. And Shaw bounces off of his foot.
That's the second time he's done that today. This time he goes down. Did it earlier and it didn't affect him, but this one was solid. He's going to take a little walk around. Watch, straight down. Oh, that was the knee. That was the right knee. I thought it went down to the foot. No way.
Torey Lovullo trying to make sure he got some feeling in that leg.
There's nothing you can do. I mean, your trainer can go out there, your manager. There's nothing you can do. You have to wait for the pain to subside. Very painful. You just need some time.
He's going to stay in there. Down on the count 0-2. And he pops it up on the infield. The second baseman Ramirez, with the infield fly rule, makes the grab. One down. One last Mazda game break. Here's Al Pawlowski.
Hey guys, here's how things went down with the Texas Rangers. They were down 2-1. Adrian Beltre in the bottom of the 5th, 2-run homer to put them ahead. This moment for good. That made it 3-2, and then the Rangers just kept going. Texas 9, Angels 2, 7th inning, fellas.
All right, thanks, Al. That could be it for the Angels.
That is it for the Angels. Although they did score 5 in the 9th yesterday, so you sort of have to wait. You can't throw dirt on them yet.
Murph said the Angels needed 5 pitchers to get the 3 outs in that 7th inning. Gave up 6. Castillo cuts and misses. He's in the hole 0-2.
They've had so many close games lately, and they've been running on fumes. It was just a matter of, time.
Yeah.
With their comeback yesterday, it was amazing.
Here's the 0-2 upstairs. Swung on and missed way out in front of it. Back-to-back outs by Shaw after the first 2 reached. Gets a pop-up and a strikeout.
Took a lot off on that breaking ball and slowed it down, and he ends up getting him to chase that pitch. It ends up out of the strike zone. So Shaw, after the first two reached, gets the pop-up infield fly rule and then the strikeout and a chance to get out of the inning now.
Strike call to Sandy Leon, who was 0 for 2 on the day. Right back to him, and Shaw makes the grab to end the inning. A line drive into the glove of Brian Shaw brings the 8th to a close for Boston. And the Indians still lead it 3-1. Here in the bottom of the 8th inning, a new Boston pitcher, I should say. Alexi Agondo will make his 64th appearance of the year. He'll be facing the Indians' 4, 5, and 6 hitters in the bottom half of the 8th inning. Rick Porcello went 7 as a starter for Boston today. Gave up 3 runs on 10 hits, walked 1, struck out 7. Carlos Santana, Jose Ramirez, and Jesus Aguilar for the Tribe. Agondo ready. Santana pops it back. Carlos walked in the first, struck out in the third, fly to right in the 5th. And a strike called. Quickly 0-2 the count. Now the 0-2 to Santana. Just a bit outside. Cody Allen getting ready in the Tribe pen. And the 1-2 pitch. Strikes him out. One away. And up comes Jose Ramirez, who was 1 for 3 today. Picked up his 10th stolen base back in the 5th inning.
Made a couple nice defensive plays out there as well.
That pitch was down and in and fooled him. 0-2.
Boy, good breaking ball.
There was a time when Ogando had some of the best stuff there was. Now the 2-strike pitch. Pedroia will throw him out. 2 down. Our Pat O'Brien Chevrolet play of the game, Jesus Aguilar with the 2-out RBI single in the 3rd. That made it 3-1, and it has stayed that way ever since.
Yeah, that was set up by the throwing error to first base by Porcello, where they were ending up scoring a run, and then Aguilar had the big 2-out base hit. That was a nice insurance run and a nice hit.
Looking for his 3rd hit of the game now. He waves at that pitch. It's 1-1. The 1-1 pitch is a foul right back. And the 1-2. A little bit low.
Tried to get Aguilar to chase that slider again, which he did not after he saw the first one. And Ogando has a very good slider to right-handers, but he's coming back with a fastball. Nope, went back to the slider. Going for a strikeout.
Bounced to 3rd. And Rutledge throws him out. The Indians go in order. We go to the 9th. Cleveland 3, Boston 1.
Red Sox here in the final game of the season. Cody Allen coming on, and Jensen, if they succeed, they'd be above 500 for the third year in a row.
I heard Cody talk about it last night. He wanted to be the guy on the mound to finish this season out and give Tito his third consecutive winning season here.
All right, make sure you join us for Indians Live coming up after today's game. It's brought to you by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. For the call of the ninth inning, here are Matt and Rick. Guys?
Thanks, Al. Jensen. As we go to the ninth, it will be Cody Allen. Why not? Cody trying to finish off what would be his 34th save of the year.
He was able to do it in fashion yesterday to hold a 2-0 game, 1-2-3. See if he can do the same thing today.
Last year, a career-high 24 saves for Cody. Trying to go 10 better than that now in 2015. Devin Marrero leading things off for Boston. Did he go? He did. One away. Let's revisit our key to the game, courtesy of Wayside Furniture. Heading the season in style, Danny Salazar went out, did his part, even though he only went 5 1/3. And he got to 195 strikeouts for the year. Offensively, the Indians have done just enough. Jackie Bradley, 2 for 3 on the day. And a strike is called. And a ground ball at the second baseman, Ramirez. 2 down. Not sure what's going on in Baltimore, Rick, but this will give Cody Allen his 58th game finished on the year, which is #1 in the American League.
All righty. Who's over there in Baltimore?
Zach Britton has 57, tied with him coming into today. And Baltimore's up 7-3 in the 7th, so he might get a chance to come on and pitch today, but I mean, that's not something that you hear a lot about, games finished, but it just tells you how many times Cody's been out there in key situations. It's not just the saves necessarily. He'll finish. Cody will finish among the top 10 in saves, depending on what everybody else does on this final day of the season. Swing and a miss. Mookie Betts is down on the count, 1-2. The pitch. Breaking ball hit on the ground to second base, and Ramirez has it. throws it out, and that'll do it. Cody Allen does indeed nail down his 34th save of the year with a 1-2-3 ninth inning. Danny Salazar gets the win. He finishes with 14 victories on the year. And the Indians sweep the series from the Red Sox to finish the season a game over 500 at 81-80.
Well, very impressive way to close it out for the third consecutive year. Now they're going to go over the 500 mark and win. And, you know, it may not seem like a lot, but from where they were at the middle part of the year, I think that's something that they can sit back on and be very pleased with as a unit and as a group. And it is something they can certainly build on. So this 2015 season comes to an end, but they do it in fine fashion when you sweep the Red Sox. And, oh, by the way, this is who we open up against in 2016.
That's right.
April 4th, 3-game series against the Boston Red Sox. So, and, you know, how about Danny Salazar? Goes to 6-1 against the American League East this year.
Yeah.
That's a fine year for Danny.
Boston finishes with 4 straight losses as they head into the offseason. We'll be back with some final thought right after this.